I am stuffed. Yesterday, I ate my fill of fair food. We went to the Minnesota State Fair yesterday. Corn dogs, hot dogs, corn, cookies, cheese curds. A lot of things that start with C. Cookies, curds, corn dogs, a hot dog. Lots of crazy foods at the Minnesota State Fair. It's a thing we go every year. We didn't go the last couple of years. This is our first year going back since 2019. Had a blast. I'll have more on that in a bit. Let's talk about what I'm going to be shaving with today. This is the third installment of the Summer Stirling Soap review. If you remember earlier this summer, I kind of talked about that, promised that. This is third of 4, and today's scent that I'm using is Bergamot and Lavender. Lavender is one of my favorite scents, just overall. It goes back to Kiss My Face shave cream, which I still use quite a bit. I've done a video on that. I've still got a couple of kind of squirt containers of that. Taylor of Old Bond Street has a great lavender. I really enjoy that. Lavender, to me, it's just very calming. But then when you also add the bergamot, which is kind of a citrus scent, it gives it a brightness. So it's a great summertime scent, and it's still very warm. It's still pushing 90 degrees on many days for us here, even in Wisconsin. So it's still very much summer. I know we're approaching Labor Day, but it still feels like summer. So that's the scent for today, bergamot, lavender, and then what else am I using? Oh, Yaqi brush. So I've got a new Yaqi brush. I've got way too many Yaqi brushes at this point, but this is my first Yaqi boar brush. I was interested, and I had low expectations about this Yaqi boar brush. I got it for $7. And then after tax it was like $7.50, and then free shipping, which actually for AliExpress was extremely fast, like 2 weeks. It's insane. Like I've waited almost 2 months for some stuff from AliExpress. But it's a boar brush, 24 millimeter knot, and I'll talk more about that during the shave. I'm using, this is a pretty cheap shave, ultimately. The Lord L6, I believe. I've done, I think, one other video with the L6. It's cheap pot metal zinc or whatever for the head, and then the handle is aluminum. It's very light. This is like a $6 razor on Amazon, but it actually is a great razor. I get some really good shaves. It's pretty efficient. It'll really take a few days growth down with no problem. It's a great little razor. It's a good travel razor. I use this a lot when I travel because if I lose it, I'm out $6. The blade that I'm using for this, it's interesting. I've never used this blade before. It's Vidyut. I think I say that correct. Vidyut, V-I-D-Y-U-T. Vidyut. And then it's Zorrik, Z-O-R-R-I-K. Super stainless. It's got a cool little yin-yang symbol on there. But yeah, anxious to see. I think I've used other Vidyut blades, and I don't get the best results. So we'll see. This may be a bloodbath. It may not be the greatest shave, but we'll see. Let's see. Timeless bowl. I'm using the timeless bowl, my blue timeless bowl. Great. I think it's the best lather bowl, at least that I have. And then to finish everything off, I'll be using the matching aftershave splash. If you notice, it's tiny. And then also when you saw me with the container, these are samples that I got back in the spring. And so yeah, these 4 soaps that I'm sampling, that I'm using in this series, this summer series, they're all samples. So that's everything that I'll be using. Let's go down now to the bowl lather in the timeless bowl with the bergamot and lavender sterling soap. So I've got a little bit of the soap pressed down into my bowl here. I'm going to splash some water on top just to kind of soften it up just a bit. the Timeless Bowl. I haven't used it in a video in a while. I've been using the DS Cosmetic bowls, and my last video I used that Razor Company 3D printed bowl. I've got a ceramic bowl that I've been using. Let's bring back the Timeless Bowl. This is the best lather bowl in my opinion. So I've had my brush now soaking 5 minutes or so in the water. Wring it out just a bit. There's a look at it there after it's been wetted. Wet? Would you say wetted or just wet? I'm not sure. Anyways, okay, here we go. So I'm anxious to see if this sheds any during this shave. I have not had any shedding, I'd say, in the last 2 shaves. And this brush does soften up considerably after a little bit of a soak. Starting to smell the bergamot now, that citrusy scent. A little more water. This knot is very short. Look at how short it is. Like it doesn't take up a lot of room, if you will, in the bottom of this bowl. More water. Okay. I think that'll do it. That's a nice lather we got going there. Looks good. Okay. Yep. Let's do it. Okay. Welcome back up. I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into the shave. I've already done my pre-shave. I wet my face, or used a warm towel on my face for a couple of minutes. And grab my bowl here. So I really like boar brushes. I've got a Samog boar and I've got 2 Omega boar. Oh, it shed. There's one little tiny hair there. Here's what it looks like. All full of the lather. But this does soften up quite a bit after it soaks for a few minutes. Otherwise, it's very stiff. Boar does that. It softens up. But for $7, I am very impressed. Now, it doesn't look the greatest. The consistency of the boar hair is different weird colors, and it's kind of misshapen, and it did shed quite a bit, at least the first couple of uses. It doesn't shed much at all anymore. And it doesn't splay out a whole lot. Like I think it might be, nope, it's not shedding. It's just long. Since it is a pretty short knot, it doesn't splay out a ton. See over here? But it works. It actually works. And for $7, now it was a defect handle, and you can kind of see maybe, I don't really know why it was a defect handle. It's maybe some of these little swirly lines in the purple were not meant to be there. I don't know. But either way, and boar's cheap. Boar brushes, nothing like a badger brush. If you're paying more than $10 or $15 for a boar, you're probably paying too much. I know there's a Samog boar brush that I want that's like $30, but then that's like the limit that I would go. Yeah. I can honestly say I've always had good luck with boar brushes. I've had a couple of Badgers, and they're okay. They're good, but boar is my favorite. Synthetic, I've had some great synthetics, but I've had some not so great synthetics. I don't know. It's all, you just gotta try things. The Minnesota State Fair, like I mentioned, went with a good friend of ours, my wife's friend, and my mother-in-law, and my 2 daughters. I'd say we mostly go for the food. The weird thing this year I saw was a dill pickle pizza. Did not try it. The line was insane. I did try a martini beer. It basically had like olive in it. It's like a martini beer, basically. That was okay. A little goes a long way. I had a couple of sips and I was kind of like, that's enough of that. Always have to get fried green tomatoes. Let me go through the montage right now of pictures I took of my wife eating stuff. She loves it. Fried green tomatoes. Here's her eating fried green tomatoes. Here's her eating corn. Corn is her favorite. That's her eating an ear of roasted corn. Here's her eating a hot dog. Like I said, she loves it. I always joke that if she dies before me, that I'm going to use one of those Minnesota State Fair pictures of her consuming something as her obituary picture. So that's nice. I have to say, this blade is doing very well in this razor. It's like I don't even feel it. I'm impressed. I do really like this razor. I've always gotten good results from this razor. A $6 razor. It looks like crap. And the balance is not the greatest because it's got that aluminum handle and kind of a heavy head. But for $6, give it a try. It might give you a great shave. Let's go with pass number 2. So one tiny shed hair so far in this shave. Not my favorite boar, but a good boar. Again, maybe a good travel brush. I typically travel with synthetic, just because they dry a bit quicker. But I always travel with cheap gear in case I lose it, leave it in the hotel or something, or drop it and break it or something. I'm not out much. This lavender, another thing I like about lavender, it's a good evening shave scent, because lavender is proven, at least for some folks, to be relaxing and help them go to sleep. So, if you're an evening shaver, then I'm probably not telling you anything you don't already know, but lavender is a good scent to use for an evening shave. It'll help relax you. I shower at night and I use a lavender scented shave body wash soap. Puts me right to sleep like a baby. We rode the Ferris wheel. My wife is afraid of heights, But my daughter really wanted to go. I'm not afraid of heights. Like I'm a scaredy cat. I'm afraid of so many things. But that's like the one thing I'm not afraid of. Well, I'm a little bit of afraid of heights, but not like crazy afraid of heights. I enjoy roller coasters and stuff. And so we went on the Ferris wheel. It was beautiful. It was great.
It's fine.
Oh, A few years ago, I read a great book. You probably have heard me talk about it before. It's called The Devil in the White City. It's about the 1893-92 Chicago World's Fair. And there was a serial killer named H.H. Holmes, and he killed people during the World's Fair. It's a great book. And it's a lot of cool history of Chicago. But there was a Ferris wheel that had 40 cars that held 60 people total. And then like you do the math, what is it? It's like over 1,000 people. It was this massive Ferris wheel that had a capacity of over 1,000 people. It's insane. And where is that Ferris wheel today? It was scrapped for metal during World War I. Up until pretty recently, or not recently, I think they kept one car, and then that car eventually even was scrapped. Now I believe at the Paris World's Fair, which is also like 1890 something, there was a Ferris wheel. It's the year they built the Eiffel Tower. There was a Ferris wheel that I think was over 1,000 feet tall, which like the one I rode on the other day was only like 200 and something. I love history. That really fascinates me to hear stuff like that. Any book, but his name is Eric Larson, the guy that wrote The Devil in the White City. I've read a couple of his books. He has a book about the Galveston hurricane that killed like 6,000 people back in 1900. It's a great read too. He writes really good history books. Anyways, so that'll do it. Pretty quick shave. I really like that blade. Zoric? Yeah, I'm gonna have to try it with other razors, but that actually was pretty good. I don't think I need to shave those two parts right now. I did that a couple days ago, but hey, overall, good shave. It's funny that we go to the state fair. I'm really not a big fan of huge crowds like that. It's a ton of walking. It's a long day, but I do it for my family because they all enjoy it. And I have a good time, don't get me wrong. I've never been to the Texas State Fair. I've always wanted to go. It's almost the entire month of October, if I remember correctly. It's where the corn dog was invented. That's on my bucket list, to go to the Texas State Fair someday. It's funny, I've also never been to the Wisconsin State Fair, which I hear is okay, but it's not as cool as the Minnesota. The Minnesota State Fair and the Iowa State Fair are like the two biggest state fair. In Texas, I think Texas is a huge one too. I don't know. I don't go to many state fairs, so I don't know the great ones. But use this aftershave. Again, not overpowering. Just a nice, fresh lavender and citrus scent that will hang around with me throughout the day. I will say it is a very true lavender scent. It's not at all fake. It's not like a can of air. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, when you spray a can of air freshener. That's the word I was looking for. That's kind of a fake lavender. No, this is very like herbaceous. It smells like a lavender plant. Or a lavender field. Okay, so good shave. I've got one more of those Stirling soaps that I'm going to review. Probably my next video, unless something comes up, but I'll try to get that here in the next week or two, and we'll wrap up the summer of 2022 summer Stirling soap review series. There's an acronym in there somewhere, but I don't have the time for that. So thanks so much. Talk to you soon.